Ambassador Alan Reed adjusted his formal diplomatic attire as the shuttle approached the massive Galactic Council station. Through the viewport, the immense structure glimmered against the starry backdrop, a testament to the collaborative engineering of 17 spacefaring species. This would be humanity's first official representation at the Council, and everything needed to be perfect. "Final approach, Ambassador," said Captain Mira, the shuttle pilot. "The Council has assigned us docking. Bay 12, Alan nodded. "Thank you, Captain. Are our guards prepared?" "Yes, sir. Tom and Lisa are ready. Still seems strange they insisted on no weapons, though." Alan smiled slightly. "Council regulations. All diplomatic guards must be unarmed within the station. The Council considers armed escorts a breach of diplomatic protocol." Captain Mira frowned. "Doesn't seem very secure." "That's why we sent our best," Alan replied confidently. As the shuttle docked with a gentle hiss of equalizing pressure, Alan reviewed his notes one final time. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 30 Earth years ago, stumbling onto an already established galactic community. Most species had been spacefaring for centuries, some for millennia. The fact that humans had received an invitation to observe Council proceedings so quickly was unprecedented. The airlock cycled open, revealing a reception committee of 4 aliens, 2 tall, willowy Aldarians with their characteristic violet skin, 1 stocky Pax with gleaming scales, and a hovering, gelatinous Vorn diplomat. Alan stepped forward, flanked by his guards. Tom and Lisa stood precisely 3 steps behind him, wearing simple black uniforms without visible weapons. Both were of average build, neither particularly imposing nor intimidating. The lead Aldarian approached. "Ambassador Reed of Earth, welcome to the Galactic Council Station. I am Diplomatic Liaison Tren. We are honored by your presence." Alan performed the customary Aldarian greeting gesture. "The honor is mine, Liaison Tren. May our species find mutual understanding and prosperity." Tren's eyes flickered briefly to Tom and Lisa. "These are your guards?" "Yes," Alan replied. "As per Council regulations, they are unarmed." The Pax diplomat made a clicking sound that the translator rendered as skepticism. "They appear inadequate for protection." Alan smiled diplomatically. "They are quite sufficient for our needs." As the delegation moved through the station's grand corridors, Alan noted other diplomatic teams with their guards, massive Kronos warriors with armor-plated skin, serpentine Silith guards whose poison glands had been temporarily neutralized, and mechanical Zet security units programmed for non-lethal intervention. The human guards seemed laughably small in comparison, drawing curious and sometimes dismissive glances from passing aliens. They arrived at the diplomatic quarters assigned to the human delegation, a spacious suite designed to accommodate various biological needs. The door sealed behind them with a soft click. "Security sweep," Tom said quietly, his first words since boarding the station. Lisa nodded, and the 2 guards moved with sudden fluid efficiency, checking every corner, panel, and fixture in the suite. Their movements were precise, economical, and surprisingly quick. "Clean," Lisa reported after 5 minutes. "Standard surveillance only, nothing unexpected." Alan relaxed slightly. "Thank you. The preliminary meeting begins in 3 hours. I expect we'll attract significant attention." Tom's expression remained neutral. "That's the plan, sir." "Remember," Alan cautioned, "we're here to observe and make connections, not to provoke incidents. The Council doesn't know much about humans yet." Lisa smiled thinly. "They'll learn soon enough." Outside in the corridor, a passing Kronos security chief rumbled to his companion. "Did you see the human guards? No weapons, no armor, no natural defenses. How did such vulnerable creatures ever achieve spaceflight?" His companion flicked a sensory appendage dismissively. "Perhaps they are merely ceremonial. The real security must be elsewhere." Neither noticed the small listening device Tom had placed during their sweep, nor how Lisa's eyes narrowed slightly at their words. The stage was set for humanity's debut on the galactic stage, and the Council was about to learn their first lesson about underestimating humans. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with the voices of hundreds of species. Vast and dome-shaped, the room featured concentric rings of seating that descended toward a central speaking platform. Holographic displays hovered throughout the chamber, translating the proceedings into 87 recognized languages. Ambassador Alan Reed and his team were escorted to their observation box, a modest space near the upper rim, befitting their status as newcomers. Other diplomatic delegations occupied more prominent positions closer to the center. "Remember," Alan murmured to his guards, "we're here to watch and learn. This session is largely ceremonial for us." Tom positioned himself at the entrance to their box, while Lisa stood behind the ambassador's seat. Both maintained perfect posture, eyes constantly scanning the room in subtle, measured sweeps. The proceedings began with a traditional chime that resonated through the chamber. The High Counselor, an ancient Aldarian named Vex, rose from his seat. "We welcome all delegates to the 8642nd Assembly of the Galactic Council," he announced, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "Today, we recognize the presence of our newest observers, the humans of Earth." All eyes and sensory organs turned toward the human delegation. Alan stood and bowed respectfully as protocol dictated. "We are honored by the Council's invitation," he said, his words translated and broadcast. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Many species were seeing humans in person for the first time, and most seemed unimpressed by what they saw: soft-skinned, physically unremarkable creatures with no obvious natural advantages. The session proceeded with discussions of trade routes, minor territorial disputes, and resource allocation, the everyday business of galactic governance. Alan took careful notes, occasionally consulting with his aides. During a brief recess, a delegation of Kronos representatives approached the human observation box. Their leader, Ambassador Grack, was nearly twice Alan's height, his exoskeletal plates gleaming under the chamber lights. "Ambassador Reed," Grack rumbled, his translator rendering his grating voice into smooth English. "The Kronos hegemony extends its greetings to Earth." Alan smiled diplomatically. "Ambassador Grack, we are pleased to make your acquaintance." Grack's compound eyes shifted to Tom and Lisa. "Your protection detail seems minimal. We would be honored to provide supplementary security during your stay." Before Alan could respond, a commotion erupted across the chamber. A Silith diplomat was gesturing angrily at a PAX representative, their translator struggling to keep up with the rapid-fire exchange. "You dare accuse the Silith Compact of border violations?" the Silith diplomat hissed, venom sacs visibly swelling. Despite their neutralization, the PAX diplomat's scales flattened in aggression. "We have documented 17 incursions in the past cycle." The argument escalated quickly, both diplomats advancing toward each other despite the protocols against physical confrontation. Their respective guards moved forward, posturing aggressively despite being technically unarmed. Security drones descended from concealed compartments in the ceiling, but before they could intervene, something unexpected happened. Tom was suddenly between the two diplomats, having crossed the chamber with startling speed. No one had seen him move. One moment he was beside Ambassador Reed, the next he was smoothly inserting himself between the quarreling aliens. "Esteemed delegates," he said calmly. Perhaps a brief cooling period would benefit these discussions. Both aliens stared at the human guard in shock. The Silith's venom sacs deflated slightly in confusion, while the Pax's aggressive posture faltered. "How did you—" the Silith began. "Quick feet," Tom replied with a gentle smile, before gesturing toward the approaching security drones. "The Council has protocols for disputes. Might I suggest following them?" The tense moment passed. The diplomats separated, their guards watching Tom with new wariness as he walked unhurriedly back to the human delegation. Ambassador Grack was still standing beside Alan, mandibles clicking in what might have been surprise. "Interesting," the Kronos diplomat said finally. "Perhaps we should discuss security matters at a later time, Ambassador Reed." Alan nodded serenely. "We would welcome such discussions, Ambassador Grack." As the Kronos delegation departed, Lisa leaned down slightly. "That was subtle, Tom." Tom's expression remained neutral. "Diplomatic incident avoided. Just doing my job." Across the chamber, species were whispering to one another, eyes and sensory organs now fixed more intently on the human guards than on Ambassador Reed himself. The first seeds of curiosity and unease had been planted. The reception following the council session was held in the grand atrium, a soaring space filled with carefully cultivated plant life from dozens of worlds. Floating luminescent orbs provided gentle light as diplomats and representatives mingled, forming and dissolving conversational groups with the fluid dynamics of galactic politics. Ambassador Alan Reed moved through the gathering with practiced ease, engaging in the careful dance of diplomatic small talk. Tom and Lisa remained ever-present shadows, maintaining their positions with unobtrusive vigilance. "Your first council session, Ambassador Reed," said Councillor Vex, approaching with a glass of luminescent blue liquid. "What are your impressions?" Alan accepted a glass of water from a passing service drone. "Most enlightening, Councillor. The Council's procedures are remarkably efficient given the diversity of its membership." Vex's violet skin pulsed slightly, an Aldarian expression of pleased surprise. A diplomatic answer, but an insightful one. "Many new species find our processes cumbersome." "Different, certainly, but with clear purpose," Alan replied. "Earth's international bodies operate similarly, though on a much smaller scale." Their conversation continued amiably until interrupted by a harsh metallic sound. Across the atrium, a mechanical Zet security unit was malfunctioning, its limbs jerking erratically as its diplomat owner tried to issue override commands. "Regrettable," Vex murmured. "The Zet units occasionally suffer programming conflicts when exposed to certain frequencies." The malfunctioning unit suddenly lurched forward, colliding with a Vorn diplomat whose gelatinous body splashed across the floor. Though the Vorn wasn't injured, their species could simply reform after such disruptions. The diplomatic faux pas caused immediate tension. Several security teams moved toward the disturbance, but Lisa was already there, approaching. "The erratic Zet unit with calm precision, may I?" she asked the Zet diplomat, gesturing toward the malfunctioning unit. The Zet diplomat's optical sensors flashed in surprise. "The override codes," Lisa nodded. "I noticed the pattern. Permit me." After a moment's hesitation, the diplomat stepped aside. Lisa approached the unit, which now swung its appendages in increasingly dangerous arcs. The crowd backed away, creating a wide berth around the potential danger. With surprising nimbleness, Lisa ducked under a swinging metal limb and pressed her fingers against a specific point on the unit's chassis. Then, with her other hand, she tapped a precise sequence on its control panel. The Zet unit froze mid-motion, then slowly lowered its limbs to a neutral position. "Basic feedback loop in the sensory processing," Lisa explained to the astonished Zet diplomat. "The emergency reset sequence should allow you to restore normal function." The Zet's lights blinked rapidly. "You understood our technology? How?" Lisa smiled politely. "I observed similar patterns in other Zet units. Your engineering is quite elegant." She returned to her position near Ambassador Reed as if nothing unusual had occurred, but the ripple of whispers through the atrium suggested otherwise. "Your guard has unexpected skills," Councillor Vex observed. Alan sipped his water. "Lisa has many talents. All our diplomatic personnel undergo extensive preparation." "Clearly," Vex replied, his tone suggesting deeper interest. "I had been led to believe humans were primarily biological engineers, not mechanical ones." "We contain multitudes, Councillor," Alan said with a modest smile. Throughout the remainder of the reception, Alan noticed more species studying his guards with renewed curiosity. The initial dismissal of the seemingly unimpressive humans was evolving into something else. Cautious reassessment. Later, as they returned to their quarters, Alan addressed his team. 2 incidents in one day. More attention than we planned for so soon." Tom shrugged slightly. Opportunities presented themselves. "The Zet unit wasn't coincidental," Lisa added. "The malfunction was triggered deliberately, likely to test our reactions." Alan raised an eyebrow. "Are you certain?" "The interference pattern was too precise," she explained. "Someone wanted to see what we would do." "And now they have," Alan mused. "Which means tomorrow will bring more tests." Tom checked the security of their quarters once more. "We're ready for them, sir." "I know you are," Alan replied. "But remember, our objective, we're here to join the Council, not intimidate it." Lisa smiled slightly. "With respect, Ambassador, sometimes a little intimidation is the fastest path to respect." Outside their quarters, surveillance systems monitored their conversation, transmitting data to multiple interested parties throughout the station. Humanity's debut was proving more intriguing than anyone had anticipated. Ambassador Alan Reed awoke to the soft chime of the station's artificial dawn cycle. Their second day at the Galactic Council would involve more substantive meetings. Private discussions with various species representatives rather than the formal observation of the previous day. As Alan prepared, Tom entered from his night watch shift. "Sir, there's been a development. 3 separate diplomatic teams have requested private security consultations." Alan paused. "That was faster than expected." "Word travels quickly," Lisa remarked, checking her communications panel, "especially when it involves the station's newest curiosity." Their first meeting was scheduled with the PAX delegation, ostensibly to discuss potential trade opportunities. When they arrived at the PAX diplomatic suite, they were greeted not by trade representatives but by Commander Drell, head of PAX military intelligence. "Ambassador Reed," the scaled commander said, mandibles clicking in what the translator interpreted as respectful greeting. "Thank you for accommodating this change in agenda." Alan maintained his diplomatic smile. "We're happy to discuss matters of mutual interest, Commander." They settled into adaptive seating designed to accommodate various physiologies. Tom and Lisa took positions that appeared casual but provided optimal coverage of all entrances. Commander Drell came directly to the point. "Your guards intrigue us, Ambassador. They appear unenhanced, yet they demonstrate capabilities beyond typical human parameters." "They are well trained," Alan replied neutrally. "Beyond training," Drell insisted. "Our analysis of yesterday's incidents suggests reaction times and cognitive processing that exceed documented human norms by significant margins." Alan leaned forward slightly. "Commander, humans have always been adaptable. It's our defining characteristic." The PAX studied him with compound eyes that gleamed with intelligence. "We've reviewed your species' historical data. You evolved as pursuit predators with remarkable endurance. But your physical capabilities are otherwise unremarkable. No natural weapons, minimal protective features, average sensory acuity." "An accurate summary," Alan acknowledged. "Yet your guards move like Silith assassins and process information like Zet computers," Drell continued. "The question, Ambassador Reed, is how?" Alan smiled. "That's a complex question, Commander Drell. Perhaps we should return to discussing potential trade arrangements? I understand the PAX Confederation has interest in Earth agricultural methods." The commander's scales rippled in what might have been frustration or amusement. "As you wish, Ambassador." The meeting proceeded with discussions of trade, but the subtext remained clear. The PAX were trying to understand what they were truly dealing with. Their next meeting with the Aldarian delegation followed a similar pattern, diplomatic pleasantries barely concealing intense curiosity about the human guards. By midday, Alan and his team were approaching the dining commons for the formal lunch when a commotion erupted ahead. A group of Kronos diplomats was confronting a lone Vorn representative, the situation rapidly deteriorating toward violence despite the station's strict regulations. The Kronos security detail, massive warriors even when technically unarmed, formed a threatening semicircle around the gelatinous Vorn diplomat, who was pulsing rapidly in distress. Station security was nowhere in sight, suggesting a deliberate gap in coverage. A test, perhaps, or something more sinister. "Tom," Alan said quietly. "On it, sir," the guard replied, moving forward with unhurried confidence. The lead Kronos guard noticed Tom's approach and turned, towering over the human. "This doesn't concern your species, small one," Tom smiled pleasantly. "Station regulations guarantee safe passage for all diplomatic personnel in common areas. Perhaps there's a misunderstanding I can help resolve?" The Kronos guard made a dismissive gesture. "The Vorn encroached on hegemony space. A lesson is required." "Interesting," Tom replied. "I wasn't aware the dining commons had become hegemony territory." The Kronos leaned down, bringing his armored face close to Tom's. "You should learn when to step away, human." What happened next occurred so quickly that most observers couldn't track the sequence of events. The Kronos guard made a seemingly minor aggressive movement. Tom responded with a precise series of actions, and suddenly the massive alien was on one knee, a pressure point in his exoskeleton somehow compromised despite its legendary durability. Most shocking was that Tom never appeared to move with particular speed or effort. His motions were economical, almost gentle, yet devastatingly effective. A misunderstanding, clearly, Tom said conversationally, still smiling. These things happen in unfamiliar settings. He released the Kronos guard, who stood slowly, mandibles working in confusion and what appeared to be pain. "What did you do?" the alien demanded. "Applied leverage," Tom answered simply. "Structural engineering is a fascinating field, isn't it? Even the strongest materials have stress points." The confrontation dissolved, the Kronos delegation retreating with their stunned guard, while the Vorn diplomat pulsed gratitude toward the humans. As they continued to the dining area, Lisa murmured, "To Tom, that was less subtle than yesterday." Tom nodded. "The provocation was more direct, proportional response." Alan sighed softly. "And now we'll have the attention of every military strategist on the station." "That may have been inevitable, sir," Lisa replied. "Better to establish parameters early." Throughout the dining commons, conversations had hushed as news of the incident spread. Hundreds of alien eyes studied the humans with new intensity, particularly the two unremarkable-looking guards who were proving anything but ordinary. The afternoon brought a scheduled tour of the Council Station's scientific facilities. Ambassador Alan Reed and his team were escorted by Dr. Nall, a Vorn scientist whose amorphous body rippled with iridescent patterns as they moved through the pristine laboratories. "Our collaborative research programs are open to all Council members," Dr. Nall explained, their translated voice melodious, despite coming from a being with no vocal cords. "Observer species may submit applications for joint projects after their first diplomatic year." Alan observed a group of Zet and Aldarian scientists working on what appeared to be an advanced propulsion system. "Impressive facilities, Doctor. Earth would be honored to contribute to such work eventually. Your species has made remarkable technological progress in a short time," Dr. Nall observed, "particularly considering your limited resources and isolation." "Necessity drives innovation," Alan replied diplomatically. As they proceeded through the laboratories, Lisa maintained her vigilant observation, occasionally pausing to study particular experiments with apparent interest. During a demonstration of molecular reconfiguration technology, she asked several questions that caused the presenting scientist to peer at her with surprise. "You understand quantum field manipulation principles?" the Eldarian scientist asked. "Only the basics," Lisa replied modestly. "The applications are fascinating, though." The tour continued to the biological sciences section, where research on various species' physiologies was conducted. Here, Alan noticed several specimens of Earth flora and fauna preserved in specialized containment units. "We've been studying your planet's biodiversity since first contact," Dr. Nall explained. "Your world has remarkable genetic diversity, including unusual variations within your own species," added another scientist who had joined them, a PAX biologist named Dr. Srel. The PAX scientists seemed particularly interested in Tom and Lisa, their compound eyes studying the guards with scientific intensity. "Your observations about humans specifically?" Alan inquired politely. Dr. Srel's scales shifted in what might have been embarrassment or excitement. "Forgive my directness, Ambassador. Our preliminary studies suggest humans have unusual neurological plasticity and adaptive capacity. Your species' potential for skill acquisition exceeds predictive models." "We're quick learners," Alan acknowledged, with deliberate understatement. The tour continued to a large circular chamber where various species engaged in what appeared to be combat training, though Dr. Nall described it as kinetic diplomatic resolution preparation. "Even with our advancements, physical capability remains relevant in diplomatic security," the Vorn scientist explained. "All Council species maintain traditional defense skills alongside technological protections." As they observed the training, a towering Kronos instructor noticed their group. With visible recognition, likely informed about the earlier incident, with Tom, the instructor approached. "The human delegation honors us," the Kronos said, his exoskeletal plates clicking with each movement. "Perhaps your guards would like to participate in today's exercises. Cultural exchange benefits all species." The invitation was clearly a challenge, particularly given the morning's confrontation. Alan glanced at Lisa, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "We would be honored to observe your methods," Alan replied. "Lisa would be pleased to participate in a demonstration, if appropriate." The Kronos instructor's compound eyes gleamed. "Excellent. A simple skills demonstration then, non-competitive." "Of course." The training floor cleared as Lisa stepped forward. The Kronos instructor towered over her, nearly twice her height and 3 times her mass. "A basic defensive sequence," the instructor announced to the gathering audience of various species. "I will initiate standard attack patterns. The human will demonstrate defensive responses." Lisa nodded, assuming a neutral stance that appeared relaxed, but prepared. The Kronos moved with surprising speed for his size, one massive limb sweeping toward Lisa in what was clearly not a basic attack. Rather than evading, Lisa stepped into the movement, her hands making contact with the Kronos limb at precise points. Using the alien's momentum, she redirected the force with minimal effort, causing the instructor to stumble slightly. Recovering quickly, the Kronos initiated a more complex sequence of strikes. Lisa responded with fluid movements that seemed to anticipate each attack, never matching force with force, but instead channeling and redirecting energy with perfect economy of motion. The demonstration rapidly evolved into something more intensive, as the Kronos increased the difficulty, clearly testing Lisa's capabilities. Throughout, she maintained the same calm expression, her movements precise and seemingly effortless, despite the increasing intensity. After several minutes, the Kronos stepped back, his breathing apparatus working harder than before while Lisa appeared entirely unaffected by the exertion. "Impressive adaptability," the instructor acknowledged. "Your technique is unfamiliar but effective. It prioritizes efficiency over power." "We work with what we have," Lisa replied simply. As they departed the training area, whispers followed. "Them." Dr. Nall vibrated with barely contained questions. "Your guard's abilities are remarkable," the Vorn scientist finally said. "Have all humans achieved such mastery?" Alan smiled diplomatically. "We all have potential. Some develop it more fully than others." In truth, what the Council species were witnessing was only the surface of humanity's adaptations, the result of thousands of years of evolutionary pressure that had produced not the strongest or fastest species, but perhaps the most adaptable one in the galaxy, and they were only beginning to understand what that truly meant. Evening brought a formal diplomatic dinner hosted by the Galactic Council's Inner Circle, the most influential species who guided the Council's long-term policies. For a new observer species to receive such an invitation was unprecedented, a clear indication that humanity had captured the Council's interest. The dining chamber was arranged in concentric rings around a central platform, where entertainment and speeches would be presented. Ambassador Alan Reed and his team were seated in a position of surprising prominence, between the Aldarian High Counselor and the Pax Prime representative. As they took their places, Alan noticed that the other delegation's guards were positioned at the periphery of the room, while Tom and Lisa had been provided seats directly at the table. "An unusual arrangement," Alan remarked quietly to High Counselor Vex. The ancient Aldarian's skin pulsed with subtle patterns. "Your guards appear to be more than security personnel, Ambassador Reed. It would be discourteous to separate you from key members of your delegation." The implication was clear. The Council had recognized that Tom and Lisa were not merely protectors, but integral to whatever humanity was presenting to the galactic community. The meal progressed through carefully designed courses that accommodated the diverse biological needs of the attendees. Conversation flowed in the formal patterns of high diplomacy, alliances and rivalries centuries old expressed through subtle nuances of language and gesture. During the third course, Prime Representative Krell of the Pax turned his attention to Lisa. "I understand you have an interest in temporal mechanics, security specialist?" Lisa looked up from her plate with mild surprise. "I have some familiarity with the field, yes." "Our scientists were impressed by your questions during today's tour," Krell continued. "They suggested your understanding exceeds the expected knowledge base for your species' current development stage." Lisa smiled. "Humans are curious by nature. We explore concepts that interest us, sometimes before their practical applications are apparent." "A dangerous approach," commented a Zet diplomat from across the table. its mechanical voice modulator, creating perfect diplomatic tones. Knowledge without context leads to developmental imbalances. Or unexpected breakthroughs, Tom countered politely. Different evolutionary paths yield different approaches to discovery. The Zet's optical sensors focused on Tom. Your species evolved as pursuit predators, yet you display precision typical of ambush hunters. An interesting contradiction. Not a contradiction, Alan interjected smoothly. An adaptation. Humans have always excelled at integrating seemingly disparate elements. The conversation might have continued in this probing direction had an interruption not occurred. The central platform suddenly darkened, and the room's ambient light dimmed for what was apparently a scheduled entertainment. A group of Silith performers slithered onto the platform, their scaled bodies gleaming in the spotlight. They began a complex performance combining movement and sound, a traditional art form representing their species' ancient hunting patterns. Halfway through the performance, a sharp crack echoed through the chamber as part of the elevated platform gave way. 3 Silith performers found themselves sliding toward a structural failure that had opened beneath them. Station safety systems activated immediately, but the response time would clearly be insufficient to prevent the performers from falling through the widening gap to the maintenance level below, a potentially fatal drop for their fragile internal structures. Tom and Lisa moved simultaneously, their actions so coordinated, they appeared choreographed. Tom vaulted across 2 dining tables with impossible grace, while Lisa took a more direct route, sliding beneath a hovering serving drone. They reached the platform at precisely the same moment, approaching the danger from different angles. Tom caught the first Silith performer as they slipped through the opening, his hands finding secure purchase on their scales without damaging the sensitive membranes beneath. Lisa stabilized the platform edge with one hand while extending her other arm to create a bridge for the remaining performers. The entire rescue took less than 4 seconds, too fast for most of the diplomatic audience to fully process what they had witnessed. As station emergency systems finally arrived, Tom and Lisa helped the shaken performers to safety, then returned to their seats as calmly as if they had merely stepped away to view the performance from a better angle. The dining hall remained silent for several long moments. Finally, High Counselor Vex spoke, his voice carrying clearly through the stunned chamber. It seems we owe our thanks to the human delegation for their quick thinking. Murmurs of agreement circulated, but beneath the gratitude lay a current of unease. What the assembled diplomats had witnessed defied their understanding of human capabilities. Not just the speed and strength required for the rescue, but the seamless coordination between the 2 guards who had acted as a perfect unit without any visible communication. A fortunate coincidence that your guards were so well positioned to help, commented a Kronos diplomat, mandibles clicking skeptically. Not coincidence, Tom replied evenly. Assessment of structural vulnerabilities is standard security protocol. You anticipated the platform failure? The Zet diplomat asked, mechanical voice betraying no emotion. Lisa shook her head. Not specifically. We simply maintain awareness of all potential hazards. As the dinner resumed with subdued conversation, Alan noticed the calculating gazes now fixed on his guards. The rescue had forced a fundamental reassessment of human capabilities, and raised far more questions than it answered. Later, as they returned to their quarters, Alan addressed his team. That was considerably more dramatic than planned. The platform failure wasn't entirely accidental, Lisa noted. The support mechanisms showed signs of tampering. Alan frowned. A test? Most likely, Tom agreed. Though whether it was testing the Silith performers or us is unclear. Either way, Alan said thoughtfully, we've accelerated the timeline. The Council will demand explanations now, not gradual revelation. Tom nodded. They're ready for the truth, sir. Or as much of it as we're prepared to share, Lisa added. As the station's night cycle began, emergency meetings were being called in several diplomatic quarters. The question on every species' mind was the same. What exactly were these humans, and what were the implications of their admission to the Galactic Council? The final day of the human delegation's initial visit brought a summons to the Council's private chamber, a secure meeting room where only matters of highest sensitivity were discussed. Ambassador Alan Reed had anticipated this development, though perhaps not quite so soon. They'll expect answers today, he told Tom and Lisa as they prepared. The carefully scripted revelation schedule is effectively abandoned. Tom adjusted his simple black uniform. With respect, sir, that may be for the best. Prolonged deception rarely serves diplomatic goals. Not deception, Alan corrected gently. Strategic disclosure. The private chamber was an austere space compared to the grand halls of the council. 12 seats surrounded a circular table, representing the founding species of the Galactic Council. As an observer delegation, the humans were provided standing positions near the entrance, a reminder of their provisional status. High Counselor Vex opened the session without ceremonial preamble. Ambassador Reed, the Council has requested this private audience to address concerns regarding your delegation's unique characteristics. Alan bowed respectfully. We are honored by the Council's attention and ready to address any questions. The Kronos representative leaned forward, armored exoskeleton creaking slightly. Let us dispense with diplomatic facades. Your guards have demonstrated capabilities far beyond documented human parameters. We require an explanation. Alan glanced at Tom and Lisa, who nodded almost imperceptibly. Counselors, Alan began. Humanity's history has been shaped by our adaptability. Unlike many species who evolved specialized physical advantages, we developed enhanced cognitive processing, problem-solving skills, and remarkable neuroplasticity. These are known human traits, the Zet representative's mechanical voice stated. They do not explain what we have witnessed, Alan continued calmly. What you may not fully appreciate is how we apply these traits. Tom and Lisa represent the culmination of our approach to personal development, not through genetic modification or technological enhancement, but through intensive training methods refined over centuries. The PAC's representative's scales rippled skeptically. No training regimen explains reaction times that approach Silith reflexes or analytical processing comparable to Zet computation. Lisa stepped forward. With respect, Representative, you're applying paradigms based on your own species' development paths. Humans took a different evolutionary route. Explain, demanded the Vorn counselor, their gelatinous body pulsing with interest. Tom spoke now, his voice measured and calm. Where other species developed specialized adaptations, exoskeletons, venom, enhanced senses, humans specialized in neural efficiency. Our training doesn't enhance our bodies beyond their natural capabilities. It eliminates inefficiencies in how we use them. Lisa continued the explanation. The average sentient brain, regardless of species, operates at a fraction of its theoretical capacity. Most movements waste energy. Most reactions include unnecessary steps. Most thought processes follow indirect paths. Our training, Tom added, focuses on removing these inefficiencies. We don't move faster than our muscles allow. We simply remove wasted motion. We don't process information beyond our neural capacity. We eliminate cognitive distractions. The chamber fell silent as the council representatives considered this explanation. Finally, the Aldarian High Counselor spoke. You're describing a form of optimization rather than enhancement. Precisely, Alan confirmed. Humans have always excelled at making the most of limited resources. Our guards aren't superhuman. They're simply humans operating closer to our actual potential. This is difficult to accept, the Kronos representative rumbled. No species develops such capabilities without genetic engineering or technological integration. Tom smiled slightly. Yet here we stand, Counselor. Unmodified, unenhanced, merely trained. The Zet representative's optical sensors focused intently on the humans. If what you claim is true, it suggests disturbing implications. If standard humans can achieve such optimization through training alone, what might your species accomplish with the genetic and technological advancements available to council members? A tense silence followed this question. Ambassador Reed spoke carefully. That brings us to the true reason for our presence here, counselors. Humanity seeks not just observer status, but eventually full membership in the Galactic Council. However, we recognize that our appearance might be concerning, without proper context. You sent unenhanced guards deliberately, the PAC's representative realized. As a demonstration, Alan nodded. A necessary introduction. Humanity has watched, the stars for centuries, studying the few alien vessels that pass through our system before first contact. We recognized that most spacefaring species possess natural advantages we lack: strength, armor, venom, enhanced senses. We needed to demonstrate that despite our apparent physical limitations, humans are capable. More than capable, the Eldarian counselor observed. Potentially dangerous. As is any sentient species, Tom replied evenly. But humanity has no expansionist ambitions. We seek cooperation, not conquest. The Kronos representative's mandibles clicked skeptically. Yet, you concealed your true abilities during initial contact negotiations. We didn't conceal, Lisa corrected. We simply didn't demonstrate. There's a distinction. The council chamber fell silent again as the representatives communicated through their private channels, encrypted transmissions passing between them in a conversation excluding the human observers. Finally, High Counselor Vex spoke. Ambassador Reed, the council must deliberate on this new understanding of your species. However, before we adjourn, I have one final question. Of course, Counselor, Alan replied. If your guards, who you claim are merely trained humans without enhancements, can accomplish what we've witnessed, what precisely is humanity's actual potential when utilizing the full spectrum of available technologies? Alan smiled diplomatically. That, Counselor, is a journey we hope to explore together as trusted allies, rather than alone as potential rivals. The subtle message wasn't lost on anyone present. Humanity was extending a hand in friendship, but also issuing a gentle warning. As they were escorted from the chamber, Tom and Lisa maintained their perfect, alert posture. Only someone watching extremely closely would notice the slight relaxation in their stance, a mission successfully completed. Well played, Ambassador, Tom murmured as they walked toward their shuttle. The Council has much to discuss, Lisa added, her voice pitched for Alan's ears alone. Alan nodded slightly. And we've given them precisely the right amount to discuss. Not everything, but enough. Back in the council chamber, the representatives continued their private deliberation, long after the human delegation had departed. They're not what they appear to be, the Kronos representative insisted. No species evolves such adaptability without a compelling environmental pressure. The Aldarian High Counselor's skin pulsed with thoughtful patterns. Perhaps that is precisely what happened. Earth's historical records show continuous warfare, environmental disasters, and resource competition. Their evolution was forged in crisis. Their potential is concerning, the Zet representative stated, mechanical voice devoid of emotion, yet somehow conveying unease. The Vorn counselor's gelatinous form rippled. Perhaps concerning, yes, but also promising. A species that achieves such optimization through training alone might develop innovations we have not considered. The question before us, High Counselor Vex summarized, is whether to accelerate their integration into the Council or to delay it for further study. The Pack's representatives' scales flattened in what their species recognized as determination. I propose we accelerate. Better to have them as allies than to risk alienating a species with such unique perspectives. One by one, the council representatives signaled agreement, some enthusiastic, others reluctant. Then it is decided, High Counselor Vex declared. Humanity will be offered an accelerated path to full council membership, the first species in our history to bypass the standard observation period. As the human shuttle departed the station, Ambassador Alan Reed gazed out at the stars. Everything had proceeded according to plan, perhaps even better than anticipated. Transmission from Earth Command, sir, Lisa reported, checking her communications. Panel. Put it through, Alan instructed. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Admiral James of Earth's diplomatic fleet. Report, Ambassador. Complete success, Admiral, Alan replied. The demonstration was effective. The Council has recognized our potential without us revealing our full capabilities. The Admiral nodded. And their reaction? Precisely as predicted, Tom added. Initial dismissal followed by curiosity, concern, and finally reassessment. They believe Tom and Lisa are simply well-trained humans, Alan continued. Which is true from a certain perspective. Admiral James smiled slightly. And they remain unaware of our actual technological advancement level? Entirely, Lisa confirmed. They believed our demonstration of natural human potential, without questioning why we would reveal such capabilities. Excellent, the Admiral replied. The Council's focus on biological and mechanical advantages blinded them to the possibility of neural interfacing and cognitive enhancement. They saw what they expected to see: physically unimpressive humans compensating through training and discipline. Alan nodded. By the time they discover our actual level of neural technology, we'll be fully integrated into the Council structure, and humanity will have secured its place among the stars, Admiral James concluded. Not through strength or natural advantage, but through our oldest and greatest talent, adaptation. As the shuttle accelerated toward the jump point that would return them to Earth, Tom and Lisa exchanged a brief glance, a wealth of communication passing between their enhanced neural interfaces in microseconds. The Galactic Council had indeed been shocked by humanity's unarmed diplomatic guards, but they had yet to discover why humans truly deserved their place among the stars. The greatest shock was still to come. The end.